Welcome, everybody. This is the Series of Opinion podcast, episode number 3, musical episodes. We are 3 women talking about the best and the worst of media and our opinions about them. I'm Faith.
I'm Moira.
I'm KJ.
And today we are talking about musical episodes, the best and the worst of them. Non-musical TV series turned into musicals just for the 45 minutes that they're on. We took 6 pretty popular shows that have musical episodes, and we watched them and wrote down our thoughts. So let us know if we missed any really good ones, and we'll maybe have to make a part 2 someday. So Moira's gonna start us off. Moira, what show did you have?
So we're gonna start with the Flash episode from the Arrowverse series. That's not a word, but we're gonna go with it.
Yep.
It's episode of the Flash, season 3, episode 17, called Duet. So it's a crossover episode between Supergirl and the Flash, but it also brings in characters from the Arrow and from Legends of Tomorrow.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a lot. So,
as my dad says, worlds collide.
Not to get us off track again, but my phone just started ringing. It's on silent, obviously, because I'm a professional now.
Of course.
My call display just says Sheldon.
Oh my god. Do you know who that is?
No.
Oh. Sheldon, I'm podcasting. Okay.
I know it.
So the crossover begins in the last 5 minutes of Supergirl, season 2, episode 16, but it recaps it in the Flash episodes. So if you choose to watch it, you don't have to watch the Supergirl episode to know what's happening. So the basis of the basis of the episode is that 2 characters, the Flash, played by Grant Gustin, and Supergirl, played by Melissa Benoist, are placed into a coma by the Music Meister, who is played by Darren Criss. And then they have to live out the plot of the musical to be able to wake up from this coma.
I like that.
Really great.
All 3 are Glee alums, and that was exciting for me.
Yeah.
Glee was really good.
The 3 main characters of this are Glee characters, and then they took all of the characters from the 4 series that did the crossover in this, and took all of the good singers and put them together into this musical episode.
Amazing.
So, great music quality. They didn't do it justice, I don't think. I think they could have added more songs and given them more chances to be amazing.
Yeah, I was shocked. I watched this episode. I've watched like an episode here or there of The Flash because my mom's watched it, but I've never like watched the series, and it is really one of those shows where you need to watch it from the beginning to understand what's happening. But 100%. Like I just like watched it to like judge the musical content, and like I was like, oh, like these are all people I recognize from Glee, and like all people who are like good singers, and then like there weren't that many actual moments that involved actual singing, and I was like, what's happening?
Aw, yeah, that sounds like such a perfect set up episode. Like if you're gonna have a musical episode, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, they
literally
prepared well. They just, I don't know what happened in the production section.
Like, it's a 42-minute episode, and 17 minutes of it are singing. But I think they could have done a little... Yeah, I checked it. But, like, I think they could have done a little bit more. And a lot of them were slow songs or not full productions of musicals. And I think they had the people that would have allowed them to do that. One of the main singers left the show... like Supergirl, a season or 2 later, to go back to Broadway. And these are the kinds of characters that were on the show. And I'm like, you had so much potential.
Yeah, so much opportunity there.
Yeah. Like, because they took all of them and it's so good. And John Barrowman, who's, like, most famous for Doctor Who, was also
I know who that is, sorry.
He's an amazing singer, and he was in all these famous UK theaters and stuff, and they only had him and 2 other famous Broadway alums do 1 song.
Aww.
And I'm like, you could have done so much more. I love it anyways, but you had so much potential to do way more. Someone who I didn't know could sing until I saw this episode was Carlos Valdez, who plays Cisco Ramon on The Flash. He was fairly new into TV and famous life, so I didn't know that he could sing, but yeah, he's done some like Star Kid production stuff, and I'm very excited to see him do more stuff in the future, because he
was involved in Star Kid?
Yeah. With Darren Criss, they used to like perform together. And they got to perform together again.
Darren Criss is like one of the big stars in a Harry Potter musical.
He created Star Kid Productions with some of his friends. Yeah. Also, they wrote 2 songs for this episode, which are Super Friend, written by Rachel Bloom and Tom Root, which I love that song, but it doesn't go well without context, really.
I think it was probably, out of all the musical moments in the whole episode, it was probably the best one. I think it would have been better if they'd done A, more music, and then B, more original music.
Mm-hmm. They also did Running Home to You, which I think should be released as a single for, like, just in general. Someone should do a cover of that and just release it. For context, Pask and Paul wrote it, who wrote the musical Dear Evan Hansen, the music for The Greatest Showman, and the music for La La Land.
So she's up there, then.
All of the feels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's on a Lin-Manuel Miranda level.
Yeah. And so I just think that song needs to be known by more people. And I just love it. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that, I think.
Okay, so, yeah,
A lot of a rant.
Yeah, overall, yeah, you liked it?
I did. I really enjoyed it. I loved that episode. I watched it like 5 or 6 times.
So, I have Once Upon a Time, Season 6, Episode 20, The Song in Your Heart. So, the explanation for why they're singing, Snow White makes a wish to give her daughter what she needs to get a happy ending. This makes everyone sing on the surface, but even after the queen banishes singing, the baby that Snow White is carrying, baby Emma, which becomes a main character, if you've watched the show, the main character, she absorbs the power of the kingdom's songs and carries that throughout her life, never being truly alone. This storyline, very, very fitting to Once Upon a Time, fits the classic feel of being, for me, almost too much. Almost too hokey, but just Once Upon a Time enough to be enjoyable. Very defeating evil with the power of love through the power of song. How much more Once Upon a Time can you get than that? So overall, costumes are absolutely beautiful, as always. Once Upon a Time has such a great costume department, and scenes are overall really well done. I think that Snow White's voice, played by Jennifer Goodwin, kind of falls flat with Charming's voice, who is Josh Dallas, I believe, if I'm not...
Josh Dallas.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure. In direct comparison, she doesn't sound as good, obviously, because he actually, I believe, has singing experience, if not singing training.
I didn't know that, but he does sound suspiciously good not to have that, so that makes sense.
The confidence is amazing. He really shines, and so I think having her with him, of course, Snow White and Prince Charming have to have a duet, but I mean, I think that if Snow had her own song, yeah, it's too obvious the difference in singing quality, and so I think it makes her sound worse than she actually is. I think that if Snow had her own song, maybe like a slowed down song, it maybe would have made her sound a little bit better. But in general, I think she sounds decent. It's just in direct comparison, not nearly as good.
No, she doesn't sound terrible, but no,
like
she's
definitely
a professional.
Exactly. It's just so glaring that she's not doesn't have as much experience, I think. So The evil queen, played by Lana Parrilla, she is the absolute breakout star of this episode. She totally shines. She brings so much personality, and this is just amplified even more. All the drama and the just flair that she has is just amplified when she sings. And also all the choreography for the evil queen, I think, is just absolutely amazing. It's so entertaining and so well done. Another close second as far as absolute superstars in this episode goes is Colin O'Donoghue, also known as Hook, Captain Hook. His voice is obviously amazing as well. The snow interjection during his song I think is a little bit cringy. That's kind of one of the only things I didn't love about this episode. I wish that it was just him and they either stand there silently or...
I think her first one is bad, and I think her second one is better.
Yes, but still, it throws me off, and it doesn't really add a whole... It's not enjoyable for me, anyways.
That song gets stuck in my head all the time. His,
It's so good.
Revenge is gonna be mine song.
And I like the spinning table, of course, is iconic.
I rewatched this episode today, and I noticed that there's a guy spinning the table.
Oh, is there really?
One of the dancers. I'm like, how is that table spinning? And then whenever they zoomed out for like a wider shot, I noticed that most of the dancers are going around the table, but one of them is standing beside the table, and he's spinning the table, and then he stops it when the table needs to stop.
That is amazing that they hit that well enough. I've seen this episode twice, and I didn't notice that.
I just rewatched it today.
That's amazing. Well, they did a really good job at hiding that. Holy. I also like that it's his, like, the dynamic between captain and crew, and that they are, like, his backup dancers. It all fits really well. It fits with the Once Upon a Time feel, and then also with, like, the musical idea that it's not just these random people that decided to sing with him. It's his crew that are supporting him, which I really like. It all fits really well. In this episode, I also really liked this self-awareness that they have, and that Rumpelstiltskin refuses to sing. He almost does, and, like, pretends that he will, but he doesn't. This, like, contradicts the curse element of the whole, and the logic of the whole episode, but makes sense in context of the show and the characters themselves, and that they don't take themselves too seriously and stick to too strict of rules, which I love about Once Upon a Time. They kind of do their own thing and don't care if it doesn't maybe add up as far as logic goes, but they make it entertaining anyways. Zelina, played by Rebecca Mader, is I think her song is the most catchy and the most well done. The scene is amazing, the drama is amazing, and I know that she is not a singer.
Is she not? That's sure. Amazing, yeah. She's really good.
She's so good. And you can feel the love that she has for playing Zelina, and this is at the best of times. You can feel how much she loves playing Zelina, but then when she sings, it's just even more.
Also, the Munchkins are excellent.
And the Munchkins running and screaming. Oh, it's so great. Like, it's I think one of the only ones, except for Emma, that it's just her. Well, with Munchkins, obviously, but...
The Munchkins don't sing, though, so...
No, they're just, like...
Screaming.
Yeah, they're just comedic addition.
Yeah, I'd say in terms of, like, catchiness, like, it's definitely, like, a toss-up for me between Zelina and Hook, but, like, it's one of those two.
Definitely. Those are probably two of my favorites, and then I also, of course, I love the Evil Queen song, too.
Oh, yeah.
But I think for me, Zelina's is the most catchy, and the one that I find myself replaying most.
Regina's is kind of tainted by the Charmings, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Every time she sings the Charmings.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. So... Another thing I didn't really love about this episode is that they made the actual singing curse storyline, they just explain this away as because of the curse, part of the curse is that they'll all forget about this singing curse by the next morning. I think it's kind of a weird addition, and they could have they could have done without it. I think they naturally could have forgotten over time that had happened. There's so many things that they fight. How would they know that
one day they were all singing?
Yeah, that they
this
day that they were all singing, and their baby absorbed the power of song. How would they know that is relevant to beating the Black Fairy in this episode,
I guess
which is the villain?
It's just because they don't want anyone to look at all the other things we've done in the previous
Yeah, and be like, why didn't they use that?
There's only 2 more episodes left of season 6 after this episode. And
right.
It's how come nobody ever suggested doing this before?
True, that's true. I was thinking more that they wanted that because of the whole reveal of, I had this song inside of me all along. But that makes more sense that...
I mean, that too.
Well, why didn't they...
If we had this big magical thing, then why didn't we use it before?
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like that episode where Snow and Charming both wake up 10 years into the curse.
Yeah.
And they both want to go, and then they're like, okay, no, we have to make ourselves forget that we were ever awake. Even though they did some stuff.
Yeah.
We had to make everybody forget that those things ever even happened, because...
Yeah, one's kind of makes up their own rules to things. They just make things happen and then just say, okay, we forgot. Don't worry about that. It's not a plot hole. It's fine.
Okay.
So, of course, Emma, Jennifer Morrison, has a great voice, too. She's also one that isn't a singer. I think that she's not, not at the level of Zelina and Regina and Hook, but I think she's really subtle and understated.
Well, they didn't give her a catchy song. They gave her a slow song that takes forever to build. It's really good, but I seriously thought that they hired someone to sing this for her. I did not believe that this was Jennifer Morrison.
Yeah, it's super good, super understated, and fits the character really well, I think. The happy beginning sequence at the very end, where Hook and Emma get married, it makes me tear up every single time. Even just the song, hearing the song, makes me so emotional as such a big fan of this show.
It's very beautiful.
It's beautiful. Every character has a part. Even smaller characters, the dwarves have a part. Archie has a part. I wish that as a fan it ended happier. I don't love the big ba ba at the end. I wish that it was just a beautiful moment, well-rounded, and just, about happy endings and about what the show is about.
Yeah, so at the end there, what Faith is trying to describe there is the clock bell is, tolling, 6 o'clock. I don't know why they got married at such a weird time of day. I don't know anyone who had the actual ceremony at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, but...
Which they had pre-warned that that's when that was going to happen.
Yes. They had a pre-warning that the curse was coming at 6 p.m., but then they got married at, 5:45. And so the clock is tolling, and then between the different, between each toll of the clock tower bell, the, big amplifying bad thing is coming noise from Emma's previous solo is between each of the bell tolls. It's quite loud. It's real jarring compared to the rest of the song.
Yeah, it's ominous.
It's a real shift.
Yes. It's such a happy and hopeful and just so once upon a time magical vibe to the song, and then this big, loud, ominous music at the end. Which
we need to give Leroy time to prepare to yell his one iconic line.
Of course. I had this as a note, but I took it out. But it's his iconic, "It's here!" that he screams when
anything comes.
When anything happens.
This is probably his 4th or 5th curse in the series so far. This is season 6.
Black Fairy's curse! It's here!
So yeah, I wish that was not there. I think that I just love the song so much as a fan. I just wish it didn't end that way. I mean, maybe in the episode, but not. They even have it in the soundtrack. Which,
if it wasn't part of it, would be nice if we had some separation between the song and this moment of transition.
Of the curse taking over the town.
Yeah. I mean, I said this before we start recording, but I feel like it's worth saying again now that we are recording. I could talk about the outfits happening at this wedding forever. They don't make any sense to me. No one's appropriately dressed for this wedding, except Zelina. Zelina looks great.
But,
Snow's dress makes no sense.
Right.
She's dressed like she's 65 and she's like 30. And it doesn't look like it fits her well. I'm like, didn't the costume department put this on you? Like, how come it doesn't fit?
Yeah, it feels like
the top is so loose on her. Like, it just doesn't fit her.
It's almost like they took so much time doing the outfits for the Enchanted Forest part and doing all the choreo and doing all the dances. They're like, oh crap, we need outfits for the last sequence. Just use, whatever we have.
Yeah, Regina
Granny's old outfit.
I swear Regina's worn that outfit before to go to her office. Like,
yeah.
She's not dressed up for Emma's wedding at all.
Yeah.
Henry looks cute. Zelina looks good. But and then also big problems. I used to hate Emma's dress, and I think it's because all three of the other dresses that were options were better.
Yeah.
And then
there ends up being 4 options
and
throughout the day.
Takes place in one day,
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So when we start, there's 2 dresses that she's just deciding between, and then Snow...
On the day of the wedding.
On the day of the wedding, she's deciding between 2, and then Snow, who's her mom, if you don't know the show, brings her dress as an option, and then the final option, the final choice, is not any of these. So there's 4 dresses she's decided between in one day.
And this dress did grow on me. I do like it now. I think it's cute. I like the collar. It's very old-fashioned-y, but I feel like she really played to what Killian I feel like would really like. He's an old-fashioned kind of guy. I feel like he'd be down with this. I think the thing I don't like is her hair, because Emma wears her hair down, but kind of with a little bit up in the back, and then it's down and kind of almost not quite straight, not quite curly, in a really cute deliberate way for this entire episode. And then she wears her hair super up, and then her veil where it attaches to her hair is big and thick lace, and I'm so you can't see any of her hair in this entire wedding.
Yeah.
Her hair's just gone. All of it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing. I honestly didn't even...
nice for the whole episode.
Yeah. I think that at the time when this first came out and I watched it on TV, I was not impressed with the dress. I don't think I mind it now, but yeah, it's very... in my opinion, I don't think it's very Emma, but I think it's very Hook. It's very old-fashioned and vintage.
It feels more grown up too. Emma's at least 32 by this point. The 2 dresses she was picking between were definitely young brides.
Yeah, true.
they were very modern, very...
As in Once Upon a Time, the show, I can't picture Emma walking out in a really sparkly, strapless, hair down. It just doesn't... I just can't picture it. It has to be, princessy and fits the vibe.
I want to know who's making the wedding dresses in Storybrooke.
Yeah.
Who is making them? And then, why aren't they Storybrooke-style dresses?
Yeah, true. Yeah, none of them really were.
None of them were.
Except for Snow's.
And hers came directly from the Enchanted Forest.
Yeah. But then it was ruined by the villain of the show. That episode.
I honestly don't love that dress either, though, so I'm not mad. I don't think it would have looked good on Emma at all.
No, I'm glad she didn't.
Unless you have the big flowery hair like Snow White had, you're not pulling that dress off.
Yeah. Fair. So
I think her skin is she doesn't have her hair doesn't contrast enough either. She would look washed out in that dress.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
We've gone super off topic. We've talked about the dresses for 7 minutes.
No, well, I'm glad we got into the outfits a little bit.
There's just one more thing I want to talk about before we move on from the wedding, and it's that the dwarves do a Congo line during Happy Beginning.
What?
Oh, and they're all dancing. It's so cute.
It's the only time we see them happy and not working, and none of them talk.
The end of my notes just say perfect choreo, outfits. Well, I guess not perfect outfits. Perfect choreo, perfect dancing, all the feels.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, just in general, the episode, makes sense in the world of Once Upon a Time and gives fans a lot of moments without being too terribly random, which is a risk with musical episodes. Songs are catchy, performances are really well done with every character, and the musical episode itself, the idea of a musical episode fits the show and what the show is really well, because it's kind of a edging on corny show, and corny at times show, so I think musical episodes really fit the theme really well.
Yeah, for sure.
So after that big bunch of totally not shortened down notes as much as I should have, we're going to move on.
Yep, guys, we can no longer ignore
Here we are.
I have Riverdale, Season 2, Episode 18, Chapter 31, A Night to Remember. And before I start telling you guys about this episode that none of us really like, I'd just like to spotlight my favorite Riverdale podcast, XOXO Riverdale, with Louis Pearlman and Kate Bader.
Yes, very good
I volunteered to do this episode, which I think we all can collectively agree is like near the bottom of our lists.
Mm-hmm. Without giving it away.
Yeah. And so I went back and I re-listened to their episode on this episode before I watched it. And it didn't really make me feel better because they didn't like it either, but it made me feel validated about my thoughts. Like, thanks, guys. Anyways, all the songs in this episode are from Carrie the Musical, which is based on Stephen King's first big novel, Carrie, which is about a teen girl with a super religious, essentially abusive mother who is humiliated by her classmates and then decides to use her powers of telekinesis for revenge instead of sticking it out and going to college. Because that's what you should do when people are horrible to you in high school, is you should just get through it and then move away. Carrie's like, nope, I'm gonna murder everybody.
Well...
I've
There's
never
only
read
two
Carrie
options, so...
or seen any of its adaptations, musical or otherwise, so, like, just, that's my understanding of what happens.
Yes.
And, this is the first time we've really talked about Riverdale extensively, so I'm gonna just, in case you've never seen Riverdale before, it's a teen drama that has a modern-ish take on the characters from the RG comics, and I'm personally a huge fan of some of the directions that it's gone, and I'm a pretty big fan of the original comics. Riverdale is kind of like a darker version of the OG comics. Like, it's an idyllic looking town, but there's some bad shit going down in there.
Oh, just a little.
Just for, like, reference, we're recording this episode between Season 4 and Season 5, and possibly not counting a number of children that were massacred by General Pickens in a pre-show timeline, there's been 68 people confirmed dead so far.
Wow.
Y'all. Oh my god.
I didn't even realize it was that high.
According to the Archieverse wiki page, 68 people have been confirmed dead so far.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, this show is bonkers. We can't stop watching it even when it's bad. So, and if you haven't seen it, please know that the 3 episodes of the show that we're about to talk about are like maybe not a good representation of the show as a whole.
Definitely not.
So, like, don't judge it based on what we say about the next 3 episodes.
Yeah, like, once you get to these musical episodes, you're in. Like, I hate what it's doing to my eyeballs, but I have to continue anyways.
Yeah.
This one's the worst of the 3, so let's just do it.
Okay,
so the premise of this episode is that Kevin is directing the school musical, which Cheryl demanded be Carrie. So, Carrie did not do well on Broadway as a musical, so it's not clear why, aside from the obvious parallels between Carrie and Cheryl's home lives, like, why the show thought that this was the musical that they needed to pick their music from.
Yeah,
I don't know what they were doing.
I think it's a common thing for Riverdale to kind of miss the mark as far as what musicals they pick. I'm not sure who's in charge of it, but I'm just simply not sure.
Very good.
The show is, like, as much as, like, this is, like, a musical episode, a lot of the regular episodes feature singing from various characters. Veronica, Josie, Cheryl.
True.
Kevin. Like, a lot of characters do sing even in the regular episodes. And, like, some of them are good and some of them are not.
Right.
But, like, to pick a whole, like, we're gonna have a dedicated musical episode, and this is the first one. So, like, and we're only on season 2. For them to pick a musical that, like, did not do well on Broadway is just, I don't understand. Like, so Carrie was on Broadway. They did 12 pre-screenings, I believe, and 5 actual performances, and then just, like, closed the doors. And it cost, like, so much money to produce. Like, it's considered, like, one of the biggest flops of Broadway. It was a huge flop. I don't know why they picked this music.
Yeah, and the audience of Riverdale is, what, like 15 to 25-year-olds? And I think I'd heard of Carrie, like the Stephen King book, but I've never heard a song from it. I'd never seen it. Like, it wasn't something I knew about. So it's kind of a weird choice that way, too.
obviously they did Heathers the next season, and I think Heathers was a better pick, but like I would have liked to see them do like Mean Girls or something people know.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Was Mean Girls would be one they could, because at least even if you haven't seen like the Mean Girls musical is on Broadway, like you've at least seen the movie.
Probably seen some reference to it.
Like, yeah, you know what it is.
Did Mean Girls?
Yes, Margaret did because Broadway expert.
Yes, of course.
Heathers the musical was based off Heathers the movie, and then it went Heathers the movie, Heathers the musical, that was then turned into a PG version, and it was called Mean Girls, and then Mean Girls got its own Broadway musical.
Okay.
And, like, it's all the same premise, that is just different versions.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think
it's
if
like
they were,
a whole
picking song, like a musical song,
literally,
I still think they could have done Mean Girls and Heathers and been fine.
Yeah, totally.
Carrie was just a poor choice. Anyway, we need to move on because
we're gonna have an 8-hour episode.
There is an actual reason why they did pick Carrie, and I did get to it.
Okay.
But we'll get there. So I was definitely expecting in my head like more of the music happening in the context of like rehearsing for or like performing the musical. Mm-hmm. And, like, kind of that's what happened, but it didn't feel like it. So, like, the majority of the music is in the context of them practicing or rehearsing or, like, performing the musical. But, like, there's just, like, little bits here and there that aren't. Mm-hmm. So, like, I'd say, like, out of the approximately 11-ish songs in this episode, there are, like, 4.5 that are, like, rehearsing and performing. And then, like, 6.5 that are more, like, singing for exposition or plot advancement of the show.
Right.
And then, it's also filmed kind of weird, because it's filmed, like, documentary style, because Cole Sprouse didn't want to be involved in the singing, and so, like, they decided to make, like, his character, Jughead, like, doing a documentary, like, project on the production of the musical, which is crazy. This is a high school musical, but anyways, turns out to be good, because we need the video evidence later.
Yeah, true.
But, it's like on top of it being a musical, it's also filmed in a weird style that the show isn't usually filmed in for parts of it, and you know, I mean, I guess Cole Sprouse did not want to be involved in singing, and probably on the right side of history here. Well, this episode wasn't great. So.
Well, yeah, but by season 4, he is in fact the first one to sing in the season 4 musical episode. So we'll get to that when it's my turn.
It was a big deal in Heathers when he sang. Like, it was a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Everyone, all the fangirls freaked out.
So, Riverdale's, like, not a show that I usually rewatch old episodes of without a good reason. So it was a minute to see Luke Perry, like, wandering across my screen. It was a moment. If you haven't seen Riverdale, Luke Perry, who plays Archie Andrews' father, Fred Andrews, passed away. And so his character is not on the show anymore, obviously. And it was a real minute to see him. Yeah, Archie's gonna have a rough season, because now the dog that plays his dog has also passed away, so, like...
Vegas. Oh, gosh.
Vegas. So right off the bat in this episode, there's weird chair choreography.
Of course.
And then they introduce each other and, like, what characters they're playing, so they don't all go to school together. In this, like, really tiny school, that there's only one school left open in this town. Like, they literally, Archie and Betty and Veronica and, like, Kevin and everybody, like, introduce themselves. Like, they're all friends.
They all know each other.
Like, there's a couple of, like, people that are serpents, but, like, the serpents still all go to the same school as them, and, like, Jughead, like, runs the serpents and is also friends with all the other people. Like, all these people know each other.
Yeah, it's a 100%. Very small town. It's a small town.
Also, Betty's mother is participating in the play.
Oh, I hated that. I hated that.
I can't even
when
imagine.
That came out. Are you serious?
Moira, you were involved in several, like, productions in high school. Was anybody's parents allowed to act?
No.
Can you imagine if your mom, if your mom had a, I almost said her name. If your mom had a musical number in Elf, in the.
Be
like,
so
what
mad.
Is happening?
Oh, no. Get out.
What is happening? I have to hold my microphone away because I'm getting too worked up. I forgot how much I hated that. I hate that.
So weird. She sings really well in her, like, one thing. True. And then she does a really great scream. But, like, oh my god, the fact that she's allowed to be here is insanity. Yeah. And then also they try and redeem the character Chuck Clayton, who was previously made out to be a serial predator. So, I'm just already out. I'm checked out. All the things I just listed are enough to make me go, what am I doing?
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's also a plot where someone is claiming to be the Black Hood, who everybody else thinks is actually dead, and is threatening to kill somebody unless they recast Cheryl, who's playing Carrie, which, as Jughead and Kevin both agree, makes no sense. Mm-hmm, but, maybe it actually does, based on how season 3 eventually ends. It actually maybe makes sense that the Black Hood was out to get Cheryl. There might be an explanation there.
Yeah.
But that is a whole season and a half away. So.
Knowing Riverdale, there's a 0% chance that they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
That they thought that far ahead? No way. If somebody in the Riverdale writers' room could contact us and tell us that they actually did plan that, then I would like to hear from them. I will eat my earrings. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even
know.
In my heart, I believe that even they didn't know who the Black Hood was at that point. The writers.
No. I feel like at this point they did. But, I don't think they had, it planned. It's kind of revealed in season 2 who the Black Hood is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe. Maybe they had plans, but not
it's
how
not
to
the end
reveal
of season
it.
3 that there'd be any reason that the Black Hood wants to get Cheryl recast in the school musical. There's no reason that the Black Hood cares until the end of season 3, and I definitely agree with you. There's no way they planned for this.
No, absolutely not.
So then, having not watched this season a long time, everybody starts this episode mad at each other, so that was really jarring, and I had no idea why, and I didn't really care, but, literally, Betty's mad at Veronica, FP and Alice are mad at each other, Josie's mad at Cheryl, Fred and Hiram are at peak rivalry, and, you know what, who cares?
Yeah, really.
So Cheryl immediately does a big solo to, prove that there's a reason she didn't need to audition, and, she does not sound like the strong singer that this scene is implying we're supposed to think she is. She does not sound good.
Yeah, I remember not loving that
She
song.
sounds really shitty.
Yeah.
Veronica's costume for the musical is this, striped, 3/4 length sleeve t-shirt and jeans, and she should wear jeans way more often. This is Camila Mendes' look. She could pull this off all the time.
Yeah.
And they should really dress Veronica in more jeans.
Yeah, I don't think they get that opportunity very much. She's always had this really specific style.
Yeah, she has
the
this
pearls
really
and the dresses
look, and pearls, yeah. But yeah, she should definitely wear jeans. Archie and Betty are in a fight because Betty and Veronica are mad at each other, and so Archie calls Betty a bully, and then they immediately have to do a love ballad together.
Ooh, right.
And then midway through, it switches from Betty and Archie singing to Betty and Veronica singing. Because they made up in the middle of the love ballad. But I was like, ooh, that's a rough transition between we're fighting and then we have to sing a love ballad together.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So here's where we get back to the why they picked Carrie. So the parallels between Cheryl's awful home life and Carrie White's awful home life is so obvious that Penelope Blossom rolls up to the school and tells her it's too close to home for Cheryl to play a character that commits matricide. And it might give Cheryl too many ideas. So,
wow.
It's literally just that's the reason they picked Carrie, was because they could make a good, strong parallel between Carrie White and Cheryl Blossom.
Right.
And, Cheryl's tried to kill her mother before, so...
Right.
And she will again, so, I guess Penelope probably has a reason to worry. And then also in Crazy Mom Town, Alice has a breakdown about her relationship with all of her kids on stage, mostly about Betty, and it's a time, and I can't believe Betty didn't just straight up die of embarrassment.
Yeah.
Because not only was this on stage at a rehearsal in front of all of her friends, but also, Jughead was sitting there recording it, so...
Yeah.
It lives on that film forever.
Yeah, forever.
And then, they're supposed to sign the playbills, and, which they have, on opening night. They're on Broadway, and not in freaking High School Musical. This is a High School Musical, and they're oh, make sure you get your playbill, make sure you sign, people's playbills. I've worked a High School Musical before, and, no matter how good you are, no one in the general high school population treats you like Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I mean...
Not in the slightest.
Yeah.
Y'all, no.
There's also a moment where Hal arrives to, make up with Alice, and, knowing what we now know, that's super awkward.
Ew.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
And then they also agree no more secrets. I'm wow, that's a bad look.
Wow.
Wow.
And then, it's weird to see Betty reacting to her dad. He's a totally normal dad. She's happy to, her dad brought her flowers for opening night. And, It's clear he's like a little bit of a daddy's girl, and I'm like, oh boy.
Oof. Big oof.
Stop.
Serious
So this whole episode would have been made a lot better if Kevin, who's one of the strongest singers on the show, sang at all. He could literally hardly sing in this entire episode. Casey Cott is actually like musical theater trained, and he does not sing in this episode like at all.
Yeah, who in the writer's room decided to cast him as the director of this musical? I have no idea.
And then,
why?
Also, FP doesn't see the musical because Alice and Hal made up with each other. So he just, like, walks back out, even though Jughead and Betty are, like, heavily involved in this whole thing. He just doesn't support them because Alice and Hal made up.
Parents in the show are always questionable at times.
Also, this school has multiple dressing rooms backstage. Multiple dressing rooms. Guys, did our school have a single dressing room?
Not a single one!
Not a single one. We barely had a stage.
Yeah, just a hallway between the stage and the music room and the music room.
Yeah.
Literally got changed on a set of stairs on the way to the weight room. That was my change room. Like,
yeah, there was a change room that was like on the backstage steps. It wasn't even in a separate room. It was like, you can't make any noise. So then Alice sounds really good in her, like, one solo, and I don't think this is really Matt Dynamic singing. It doesn't really matter if it is or if she isn't, because she sounds good, and it's not like there's going to be another musical episode of the show, right?
No, of course not. Why would they do that? And if they do, they'll change it so much because this went so poorly.
Yeah, they definitely improve over time. But, so this episode ends with Midge Clump being murdered by the Blackhead. Her body is crucified and then just riddled with knives. Like, riddled.
Yikes.
Fun times at Riverdale High.
Oh my gosh.
Experiences.
Would this episode be better if I knew more about Carrie the Musical? Like, maybe. But, like, And is this a good episode plot-wise? Like, it's kind of a transitional episode, because, like, we're at a point where we aren't sure if the Black Hood is back, and then lots of relationship things are happening, because everybody's relationships start off, like, really, really shitty. But, like, aside from, like, Midge's actual murder, like, we kind of knew that the Black Hood was still out there, so, like, not really. Not much, like, happens really plot-wise, except for that murder in this whole episode. This is the episode where Archie has that car, and he has to give the car back. That's the big other plot in this in this episode. It's, like, nothing. And then
it's a very meh episode, I think.
Yeah. And then musically, it's not as bad as I remembered, I'll be honest. Like, when I was really dreading rewatching this, but, like, it's not that bad. But it's also not great. And then, again, I think Cheryl just sounded bad in her episode. She sounded better. She did a duet with Josie later on. She sounded better. Everyone else mostly just, like, sounded okay. At best, it's fine. But, like, compared to the subsequent musical episodes, like, or even just any other single musical number that has happened so far on this show, like, this was just nobody's best work.
Right.
In particular, I think KJ Apa, who plays Archie Andrews, was just done dirty. Like, he can sing. But they picked all songs that weren't good for him. None of the parts that he got were suited to his voice at all.
Yeah, I think they do that often. Like, they do him dirty sometimes with the singing.
Yeah, he can sing. He has a band and everything.
Yeah.
He can actually sing. But, like, anyway. And, yeah, like I said before, like, this episode just needed more Kevin. Because...
Oh, of course.
So, yeah. Absolutely. So, in summary, this show picked music that wasn't great, from a musical that bombed on Broadway, and then didn't use the most trained voice that they had, and then, I don't know what to say about that. Like, you made a series of bad choices, and it turned out badly. I don't know what you want.
Yeah, like, it wasn't the worst ever, but you made so many bad decisions that it's kind of, you get to the end and you're like, meh.
And then, like, so for, like, people who, like, were, like, surprise breakout stars, I mean, there wasn't really any, but, like, I think, like, we already knew she could sing because she sings fairly often on the show. I think Cami Mendez, aka, like, Veronica, had, like, the best singing, like, maybe Mad Dynamic. If she wasn't, like, I mean, it probably wasn't even her singing, but, like, even if her singing wasn't best, she certainly won Best Scream. She screamed so good. I mean, that's a title Cheryl rarely gives up, but, like, Alex really did a good scream. And for good reason. And then, like, for people who, like, shouldn't have sung in this episode, like, basically whoever thought that Carrie was a good musical to pick songs from should be fired.
Yes,
and then,
definitely.
like, also, like, Cheryl just was not performing peak levels. Alright, so... yeah, that's the musical episode of Riverdale, or at least the first one. Anyone else have anything they want to say about this episode before we move on to the next one?
I don't think so. I think I interjected my very strong opinions while you were going. So, well, do you think it's worth, like, say someone's never watched Riverdale before? Do you think it's worth watching? Would it be enjoyable?
I think that you have to get the very little plot that happens. I think is actually somewhat important. Like, there's some
as
stuff
far
in
as
there.
Entertainment.
I would never be like, hey, I'm gonna watch Riverdale, and like a person who's never watched it is over at my house. Like, I'd probably just like wouldn't. Like, there's other episodes where like, hey, like I'm gonna watch Riverdale, and I'm like on like season like 3 or 4 or whatever, and like I'd probably just be like, you know, you're not really gonna know what's going on, but it's fine. This episode I would not, because it's just bad. That person would never have any interest in starting from the beginning.
Yeah, true.
Very fair.
So next up we have Moira. Who's going to do our next Riverdale episode.
So I'm doing the second Riverdale episode, season 3, episode 16, chapter 51, Big Fun. So this is the second Riverdale musical episode, and they're performing Heathers, which was never on Broadway as of yet.
But it was good. It was in West End, which is like UK Broadway.
Yeah, it was a West End. It was just recently went to West End, which is great. Thank you. But
I said this before we started recording, but I'm gonna say it again because it's worth saying. But like, it's a good thing that I was initially very like, oh, I'll have to do this like episode of Riverdale that we all don't like. But then I rewatched this Heathers episode today, and I was like, good thing I didn't do this, because I would have talked for 2 hours about this episode. I have a lot of things to say.
Okay, fun.
They're doing Heathers as their school musical for the year. And throughout the episode, they do the occasional, like, song where they're practicing, and then they just connect some of the songs to their real life. And just randomly start singing, which drives me bonkers, but also I love. Yeah. They do it better than the first one, for sure.
Like, the opening song where Kevin and Evelyn are trying to, like, convince Hermione to let them do Heathers is like almost better than the original from the soundtrack. It's really well done.
Honestly, I really like that part. Like, for sure, I love the beginning.
Because
also,
the first person that sings is freaking Kevin. They immediately realized their mistake this episode
because they were absolutely destroyed by fans when we watched the Carrie one, and we're like, where is Casey Cott? What are you doing?
Casey Cott.
He's the first person to open his mouth in this episode.
So that was their apology.
Alright, continue. Sorry.
Also, Hermione being like, are you guys all this sad? And
oh, yes. That's my favorite part.
Literally, like, absolutely, this is why. Stop.
Yeah, are you paying attention to anything? Yeah, anything that happens in this show?
Like, you went from saying, oh, yes, we shouldn't do another musical because someone died at the last one, to, you guys are actually this sad?
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Of course.
I really love Heathers, the musical. Like, I love the soundtrack. And one of the next songs that's sung in the episode is Candy Store.
I'm sorry, we have to go back for a minute. So at the end of the first song, they all come up on the stage. Like, they all enter the auditorium and come up on the stage. And it's a very similar scene to the opening number in the previous musical episode. And so remember I mentioned that they did really bad chair choreography in the first one? They do a similarly bad choreography in almost the same spot, just standing. Like, they just got rid of the chairs and did more bad choreography in the chairs.
Oh, so much. I can't even talk about the choreography in these musicals. Like, I
don't even get into it.
I can't. I can do a whole episode on it. Like, no, I can't.
And in case anybody didn't know, Moira is, what would you say, trained? You've gone to dance?
I'm a dancer. I took dance classes for like 15 years of my life.
Yeah, exactly.
I choreographed a musical in high school. So, like, I could talk about this forever.
Your mom teaches a dance class?
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom has a university degree in dance. Like, I've been raised in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I have to talk about the final song when they finished the musical and the dancing there. What was that? But before that, they changed the lyrics to Candy Store from the original to when they did it in the show. And I understand changing lyrics to make it like more PG when you do a show, but this is the least PG show ever. Like, they're talking about cults and like people dying all the time, and they just changed the lyrics to make it more PG, and I was like, why?
Yeah, it's not really a PG show. Yeah. And it's on Netflix too, which Netflix is not usually concerned about being PG.
No. It's just they changed half of the song for Candy Store, and it drives me bonkers to listen to them at the same time. Like, I went back and I was like, it's because I noticed it when I was watching it, and I listened to them like one right after the other, and it's so wrong. It drives me crazy. For plot things, this episode, Fangs joined the cult in this episode, which is so stressful, and they do a song from Heather's, I don't remember which one at the moment, to like initiate them into the cult, which is so weird and creepy. I don't like it.
I think that in my opinion, I think they like ruined those characters by putting them in the cult, and the stuff they do in the cult.
Absolutely.
I just, even now in the current like seasons of Riverdale and in the new episodes that come out, like, I just have a hard time forgiving him.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's really rough. It's really rough.
Kevin Keller deserved better than this.
One thing I wanted to mention, this happens in Candy Store and then again in a later song, but Tony's whole body has sound effects in this episode.
Really?
When she whips her hair or points her fingers.
I respect it.
It's embarrassingly loud in Candy Store when she like whips her hair on Cheryl's face. There's that whip sound, and it's very loud. And then there's later, she does it again in the song she does with Fangs and Peaches. But then also, like, when she points, her arms make a similar sound.
Oh my god.
These are like effects added in post?
Yep, they're in post-production. Yeah. Like, her hair has sound effects, and so do her arms.
Oh my god.
It must happen to other characters, but it's really noticeable with Tony. Like,
no, I would love it if it was just her.
Yeah, it's definitely the most noticeable with her. It's hilarious.
That is so funny.
Yeah. The song with Peaches and Sweet Pea is just, I don't know why it was added. There was very little purpose. Like, I get that it got Cheryl and Tony back together after they'd broken up in like the previous episode or something, but they could have done it so differently.
I really like That Girl Walking, though. It's one of my favorite songs from the whole
I love
soundtrack.
That song.
It's one of the best songs in the soundtrack.
For sure. They could have done that song much better. I think they could have done...
It was nice to give Tony a song, though. Tony's not participating.
Tony deserved that song.
Tony doesn't have a singing part in this musical, so there's no reason for her really to be singing. But it's very nice that she did. I'm glad she did.
I know.
Tony, we could do a whole episode on Tony and Vanessa Morgan and how Vanessa Morgan isn't paid fairly. But that's a whole other episode.
That's a whole other episode.
She's the only person of color who's like a series regular, and also she gets paid less than all the other cast members. So
that is...
What a shock.
Wow.
Yeah, CW is in trouble right now, but probably not really. Anyway, we're going to move on because we could do a whole episode just on that, and probably will at some point.
Probably.
Yeah.
Actually, we definitely will. It's on the list.
Also, the song 17 fits so well with the characters, and just, it's one of the songs they sing, and it's basically about how they need to actually remember that they're, like, kids, and they don't have to be adults, and they're dealing with all of this stuff. And I'm like, that's the song that I think fits the best with Riverdale characters, and why they picked Heather's to be one of the musicals
I believe,
that they
like,
cover.
the opening song and this song are why they picked Heather's. The same way that they picked Carrie because of Cheryl's mom. But two important things happen during 17. One is that Jughead Jones cries. And then the other is that Jughead Jones then sings.
Yes.
We get to hear Jughead Jones sing. Hot take, I'm actually not that big of a fan of his voice.
Oh, wow.
I think he does fine. Yeah. Like, he obviously doesn't have any training, didn't have any real interest in singing.
He doesn't care enough to do it, which is fair, valid. I'm just like, Yeah, no, he's not going to get a singing career. While the other ones, I think, could do stuff with singing in the future.
Part that they gave him is at least like it's low enough that he doesn't have to do a lot of like hard work singing, and like it's okay that he's not super great. Like, he sounds fine.
And it fits well with what he needed to sing in that for it to make it sense, and it was really good.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And I remember, this might not be correct, but I remember reading something at the time when this came out that Cole Sprouse only agreed to sing if it was going to be with Lily Reinhart, which I think I'm sure they were dating at the time, and they still are together, but I believe at that time they're not anymore?
No, and Lily came out as bisexual after they broke up.
Oh, I love it.
That's the whole thing, yeah.
Random. But when did they break up? We should
Hang
cut
on,
this,
I'm gonna Google this.
I think I'm sure.
They broke up in like May
of this year.
Yeah. And then,
what?
Like,
where have I even been? What is happening?
Yeah, all these articles are like May 25th, May 26th.
Ooh.
Okay. I mean, a lot has been happening in the past couple months.
Yeah, a little bit more stuff, I guess, that has distracted me. But they were together at the time. They still
have to get along because they have to work together a lot, and like their characters are still a couple on the show and everything. So
that is in fact the danger of dating in real life and on the show.
Yeah, is that you still have to be a couple.
So sorry, Moira. Continue.
The last thing that I really wanted to talk about was that Edgar Evanarper, it's his first episode.
The reveal.
And I was like, oof. And I love Chad Michael Murray so much. But I was like, how dare you make him an evil character? He
does well at it, though.
He's just super well at it. But I like seeing him in happier roles, or just being like a jackass and not scary, creepy, cult leading man.
What else is he in? This is the first thing that I've seen him in. So what else was he in?
Did a lot of like things, like he did Gilmore Girls and One Tree Hill and Another Cinderella Story, and he was also in Agent Carter, which is where I
wait. Who did he play in Agent Carter?
Jack Thompson, Agent Jack
Thompson.
Oh yeah. Which I didn't connect the first time I watched Riverdale and things, and then I was like, wait.
Yeah, actually, I think I saw him in Another Cinderella Story. That makes sense.
Yeah. He was a baby back then, but
yeah, but now that I just looked up a picture, so I remember that now that you say that, but when I saw him, I totally didn't have any idea.
Yeah, it was just a new person.
Yeah, exactly.
He was really hot in Agents Sorry, I can't speak.
For sure. He's just so
he's very good looking.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody?
All the cult things.
Yeah. Anything else to add about Big Fun?
I mean, it's a great episode. I think the only thing we haven't mentioned that I really want to mention isn't a musical thing, but right before we cut to the opening the tile card, Cheryl says this line, like, "Does anyone have a chainsaw?" Which is also a Heather's reference to the line "fuck me with a chainsaw."
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And it's so good. I don't know if I can put it in here with a copyright, but if I can, I might do it.
Does anyone have a chainsaw? Because what
Yeah, I think that this is my favorite musical episode. I actually really enjoyed it, and it's the only one that I find myself listening to the soundtrack, the actual Riverdale soundtrack. I think
I like some of the versions of the Riverdale. The Riverdale version for Heather's. Yeah, Heather's is the best of the three, I think.
Yes,
100%. I really.
I think it fits the best as far as the plot and the musical and the songs all fit together and match pretty well.
It's also a bit more It's also the most mainstream of the three musicals that are featured in Riverdale.
Sure.
Yes,
it's the only one that I didn't have to that I'd even heard of before, really, as a musical.
Yeah, totally. Me too. I had actually heard of this one before, which is saying a lot.
I watched the original Heather's movie, the non-musical movie, after I watched this episode of Riverdale, and I was like, yep, I get it.
Yeah.
Fair. Before we move on, I said I was going to go back and talk about the last song that they perform on stage, and I never did.
Okay, yeah, go back.
Sure.
Okay. So the last episode that they sing on the stage as they were performing as a, like, the musical, which is the 17 reprise.
Oh yeah, I want to talk about this too. The dancing
in that. What are you doing? You're just standing there. You could have done something. They're just
it's
standing
because
and
they
moving
didn't tell half the people
awkwardly.
until they'd already gotten 10 minutes to stage.
Literally,
They already thank you 10 before they told Jughead that he was going to be participating on stage.
In the production. What are you doing?
That's why the choreography is so bad in that particular song. It's really bad.
But, like, why?
Like, they actually
they're
did
just
that to
flailing.
the actors?
No,
was
so
an
like
actual thing they
did that
did?
to the characters.
So like
The
the
characters,
characters
okay.
come in. Kevin comes and he's like does the like 10 minutes and they say thank you 10, and then Betty and Jughead come in super duper late, not ready to go, and then Kevin's like, oh yeah, does Jughead know his choreography? And Jughead's like, what choreography? I'm not participating in this.
Yeah.
And then
It's
they
been a
get
while
up on
since
stage
I've
and the
watched
choreography
this.
is really bad.
Yeah.
There's like
I know,
weird
I
arm
just
movements
hurt my
and
soul.
it's bad.
So they did
And
that on
everybody like rips
purpose?
half of their jackets and stuff off on stage. It's
I
fine.
don't know. Like,
Yeah,
they
I remember
literally
that.
just look like they're dressed like themselves for half of it, and it looks wrong and weird, and I don't like it. And
There is one little bit where
Why?
Jughead, his hat is like kind of off, and then like the camera cuts away and now it's back on again. But like in the
Yeah.
1 minute where it's off and he's singing, it's like he's singing and his hat's off in front of the whole town.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rare
Also,
sight.
they don't zoom in on the second half of the stage. Like, there's two characters that are just fillers that they never zoom in on, and it drives me bonkers. I was just looking at it
That's
the
funny.
entire time I was watching it. I was
That's funny
like,
because there's a lot
why?
of people up on the stage. They didn't need those two filler people.
No, they just had two filler people on one end of it after, whatever her name is, who plays Evelyn. That's it.
Yeah.
Evelyn.
Oh,
Like,
I did want to
after
talk about
Evelyn,
Josie's
there's, like,
hair
two extras.
as well. Josie's featured on and off throughout the episode.
Mhm.
Because she's playing Veronica Sawyer, who's the main character in Heathers, and she's hardly even in this episode, but it's
She's
fine.
barely in it.
So Josie is played by Ashley Murray, and
Yeah.
so she's black, and so she's not featured very much on the show because the show is not very diverse.
shock.
But anyways, so she does her hair like I'd say like at least 2, maybe 3 or 4 different ways in this episode, and they're all like very like for her costume. For like this like final performance, it was really noticeable. Her hair is like straightened so that it's like straight and then curled again in like not her natural curls. And I'm like, girl, your hair is gonna be fried.
Yeah, true,
Yeah.
true.
Like, I just wish that like this was a High School Musical. They could have left her natural hair.
Yeah, true,
Yeah.
exactly.
There's no reason to do that to your hair for no reason.
Was
Like,
that
if you've got curly hair, you don't need to straighten it and then curl it a different way.
It looks so dumb. I was
Like, it makes her look
why?
like she's 40. Like, it does not make her look like she's in high school. She looks way older. So, like, it's not a good character bit. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. And I hope that it was her choice to do her hair that way and not some random person from higher up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it just looks like, oh, girl, you had to straighten that and then you had to curl it again. Like, your poor
Yeah, it
hair.
doesn't-
No amount of heat spray is saving that.
Yeah, true,
No.
true.
Plus, if you have naturally curly hair, then your hair is naturally dry. So, like, it's already not gonna take that heat
Yeah.
well.
Doing hair for people who are black is so much harder, and you have to put so much work into making
Yeah,
it
and, like,
not
it just doesn't
die
look great
from
either,
that.
so.
No, why would you even do it? Your natural hair would look so much better.
Anyway, yeah, the choreography in that scene is actually insane. It's a lot of arm waving. Like, they barely move their feet, and it's a lot of arm waving,
Like,
and
it's
it looks
just-
bad.
It's not
is
good
exactly-
army, like, it's interesting.
That's the exact choreography, too, of the last song in my episode, Wicked Little Town, where they're just standing on top of Pops and just waving their
Oh,
hands
yeah, I
back
forgot
and
that
forth.
they were standing on the roof in that scene.
Oh my God.
Anytime that they end up standing on top of Pops, that's not the first time that they've stood on this
No.
roof of Pops.
No.
I just don't get it. But anyway,
It is not.
we have to move on.
They need to hire a better choreographer, is what we've decided.
Yes,
They need
yes,
a new
Hori, a freaking choreographer.
Which brings us to the next and most recent musical episode of Riverdale, Season 4, Episode 17, Chapter 74, Wicked Little Town. This is a musical based off, the musical episode based off Hedwig. I had absolutely, and still have, absolutely no prior knowledge of this musical. Absolutely nothing.
Do you need me to tell you about the musical?
I have a Wikipedia quote. Hedwig and the Angry Inch is a 1998 musical about a fictional rock and roll band of the same name, fronted by an East German transgender woman. It ran on Broadway from February 14th, 1998 to April 9th, 2000. And that's all that I know. Do you have anything to add?
That's good, but I'm going to add. So our Hedwig is basically becomes, she doesn't become transgender, but like, I believe, from what I understand, Hedwig was a gay man and then fell in love with an American soldier / needed to get out of East Germany because, you know, communism and the Second World War and stuff. And then no, it was the Cold War was happening, and so she gets this sex change and it goes wrong.
Okay,
but she gets it so she can marry this American soldier legally and leave East Germany. And then, like, pretty much as soon as she does that, the Berlin Wall comes down and the Cold War is, like, over.
Okay. So
it was basically for nothing. And then, yeah, also, there's rock and roll music. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the extent of our knowledge.
Yeah, we don't know anything about this musical. Yeah. Please, if you know where we can experience any part of this.
Yes, if you're a big fan, like, explain it, like, tell us what you think. Yeah, what you love about this, because I'm sure it's better than this episode of Riverdale. So, the explanation to why they're singing. There's absolutely no explanation, no idea why anyone's singing. Jughead starts singing in the first minute, and there's no explanation. It's I think with each musical episode, they stray further from trying to make it make sense. They just know, okay, well, musical episodes do well. I think they do well anyways. That's just an assumption. We need one per season. Let's just shove it in.
I think all three of them start, like, there's a song, and then we go back and or there's, like, an opening montage where there's some singing happening, and then we go back, and then there's more singing happening. Possibly with the exception of Heather's, but I believe the Carrie one started, they were singing before we even knew what was going on, and then we backpedaled and was like, yeah, the musical's happening, and we've all been preparing.
Okay, well, I might be a little less harsh on that moment if we didn't have, like, 8 more moments like that in the episode. So I'll get to that. So as far as actual performances, I think that Archie, KJ Appa, kind of falls flat in this episode. I don't know if it's the songs they give him or if he had a cold or I don't know. But I don't really like his singing in this episode.
I just need to clarify. So I do remember that like this episode wasn't like based on like Kevin directing a musical. And I don't really remember Archie singing that much. But is this the episode where Archie and Betty might have feelings for each other?
Yes, in fact it is.
What?
Oh, yeah. Okay, Moira has not seen this episode.
Oh, you've not seen this? Oh, no. Okay, so
I need to know.
This episode, my notes don't really have a whole lot of plot in it. I focus more on the actual, like, performance. Mm-hmm. So, do you want to, like, catch up, Moira, or
yeah, so I'll basically just say, there was a whole thing where, I'll just spoil the whole season for you. So, if you haven't finished season 4 of Riverdale, warning now, I have all of the spoilers for the whole season right now.
Spoilers in this episode in general.
Yeah, so, Jughead, like, faked his death to, like, get to the bottom of a mystery, because, you know, why not? So all those flash forwards where Jughead's dead are all pre-planned. But, like, part of making this believable was for Archie and Betty to, like, pretend to, like, get over the death by, like, hooking up. Mm-hmm. And it was super believable to the point that they, like, intentionally got caught pretending to have sex with each other. And then this is, like, an episode or 2 later when everybody now knows that Jughead is alive again. And now, because of all the really good acting that they did together, now Archie and Betty are starting to question their actual feelings for one another.
Yes, that's a good explanation.
Yes.
For sure. So, anyways.
It was a dumb plan all around. All the pieces of that plan were terrible.
It was.
That sounds awful. What are you doing?
As far as Archie's singing, yeah, I don't love it. I think Jughead / Cole Sprouse has some decent moments. I don't mind how he sounds. Obviously, of course, he's not trained, as we mentioned before. But I like his voice. I think the guys kind of ride just the mediocre line in this for me.
Except for Kevin, but yeah.
Of course. I mean, Kevin's just like
Kevin is
on a different
finally
level.
The star in this episode.
Yes, finally. Yes,
this is
that is something.
A Kevin-centric episode.
I love it. That sounds incredible.
Yeah, finally, it's not a musical that he's directing. It's this variety show, which is, like, I'd never heard, is it like a talent show, I guess?
I think it's like a coffee
Basically,
house.
yeah.
They're having a coffee house.
Right.
And Kevin wants to sing a song from Hedwig.
Yes.
And
the principal...
Hedwig's very mature, so...
Yes, and the principal does not love that idea, Mr. Honey.
Yeah, Mr. Honey
principal.
sucks, but he might be a little bit correct about maybe not... I mean, no, I think you should be able to sing whatever you want at the coffee house. I think if he'd said, like, no, you can't do Heathers, then, like, that would have made sense.
Yeah, but they were allowed to do
Heathers. But this was just, like, arbitrarily, like, homophobic. That's what that was.
Exactly. Yeah, all it does is make him seem really...
awful, which he is.
Awful. Yeah. I think that the ladies in this episode, and Kevin, obviously, Kevin is on another level. Ladies and Kevin absolutely kill it. I love Veronica and Cheryl and Tony all in this. Personally, I don't love Tony in the Heathers episode. I like that she has her own moments, but I don't love her voice.
I think she was really good in Dead Girl Walking, but that could just be me.
It's not my favorite.
When her and Cheryl are battling it out over Candy Store,
that is really
they
good.
both sound terrible.
Oh, I like it. I like their battle.
I think that they're just yelling over each other, and neither of them sound like they're singing on key.
Well, Cheryl gets, like, pretty screechy, for sure. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Tony also gets a little screechy. It's just that Cheryl is so much screechier.
They're trying too hard to scream over each other.
Which is the point. I guess they're allowed to sound bad in that scene, because it's intentional, but...
Yeah, they're supposed to be doing this, but, you know...
But yeah, I think she redeems herself in this episode, for sure. She sounds a lot better in Hedwig.
Incredible.
Breakout stars for me are Lily Reinhart and Casey Cott, who played Betty and Kevin. I would listen to their albums. I love both of their voices so much. I think for me, it takes this episode from, like, tacky and disjointed to actually being a musical episode and being almost decent. Riverdale stands, like, come for me, but that's what I think.
Everything I don't like about this episode, I can immediately forgive as soon as I see Kevin in drag.
That is exactly
fair. He looks so great.
Yes,
the sleepover scene is so good.
I'm getting to it. I in fact have a point in my notes to say Kevin's drag.
Okay, good.
I love the inclusion, of course. It kind of, I have this gripe with Riverdale a lot that sometimes they do things just for advertisement sake and for, like, putting teasers out there. Kind of just for, like, almost clickbait, but in a commercial way.
Yeah.
But
an example of this would be in the original, like, before we had a single episode commercial, there was Betty and Veronica kissing, and lots of people were like, that's queer baiting, like...
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I think
the show is bad for that. It
does that a lot.
100%.
Which I kind of was afraid that this whole drag, Kevin being in drag all the time, for a lot of the episode, I was afraid that was what that was going to be.
But no, they've delivered.
Yeah, I think that I don't think the episode would be as good without it. I think it actually adds
Everybody
value.
else gets in drag at one point, too.
Yeah,
everybody.
in support of him. Outfits in general in this episode, I think, are underwhelming. I think they could have done way better. If you're gonna do a musical episode, like, do it.
Veronica didn't get, like, a jeans moment.
Exactly. They all look exactly the same as they would. And this is also another gripe I have with this episode, is that the singing feels like it was stuck into an episode that was already written. Like, besides the variety show plot,
I feel like that might be the truth, though. Like, because they had to cut their season short, I feel like they might have had to combine 2 episodes, and like this episode and another episode together. I feel like that's really possible, because they had to cut their season, like, 2 or 3 episodes short.
Maybe.
And this comes, like, right at the end. I think it's, like, the second last or, like, third last episode of the season, so it wouldn't surprise me if they're like, okay, like, we'll take the variety show plotline, and we'll take this other plotline, and we'll make 1 episode.
Maybe. I mean, if anyone knows for sure, hit me up, because I'll forgive a little bit.
Riverdale writers, production team, somebody.
Please let us know. Because this is one of my biggest gripes with this, is that the singing tries to be explained away in context of the variety show, but it feels like really out of place for me. It totally feels like 2 episodes of a musical episode and a regular episode were just shoved together. The songs, what got on my nerves is that they don't fit the context of the actual scene and what they were talking about, and then now they're singing, and the actual lyrics of the song have nothing to do with what they're actually either mad about or happy about. Like, the scene where Veronica and Archie are fighting, and so is Betty and Jughead are fighting each other. Like, they flash back between the 2 couples. I really don't like that scene. I don't think it makes sense. What they're actually saying to each other doesn't make sense. It's not really well done. They just make a mess. They just shove things off the table. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. The whole thing. The music and the singing isn't great, and the actual scene, and it spins you around all the time as far as, like, shots go, camera shots. Don't love it.
Good.
But all of that to say, sorry, all of that to say that songs throughout this episode don't feel like they fit into it, except for Kevin. I like Kevin's moments.
Kevin's so great in this.
Kevin's great, and the variety show situation.
Yeah,
if they amped up the outfits and stuff, I think could have been done really well, but the rest of it, I think, just flops.
Everyone showing up in the drag is really good.
Yes, I like that. That's a good moment.
And then the sleepover scene is good, where they're like, Kevin does like 3 million drag costume changes, and it's great.
Yes, my favorite performance.
It's just Kevin and the girls, so like everybody sounds great there. There's no worry about people not knowing what they're doing.
Yes. My favorite performance for sure is Wig in a Box is the song.
Yeah.
I love the whole vibe. It's a sleepover with the girls and Kevin, and they all try to cheer Kevin up. It's for sure my favorite part of the whole episode and the best performance. The voices are great, and somehow, even though like it doesn't make sense really why they're
I feel like this is the first time in a few seasons where they remembered that in the pilot, Kevin and Betty were like best friends.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
Literally.
Like, it was Archie and Jughead, and then it was Archie and Betty, and then it was Betty and Kevin. Like, they were like 3 different, like, little pods that were like, kind of all together, but not really.
Like, it feels like he's one of the girls, and he's, like, one of their friends, and they're actually half normal teenage friends. I like the simple, like, cute little dances that they do, and their cute, like, outfits. It's cute and subtle and purposeful without being too sexual, which is something that Riverdale peters on a lot. It's actually teenager-y.
Yeah, and like Cheryl and Tony are like a couple, so like they have the opportunity to make it sexual.
Yeah,
and they like, choose not to, which is really nice. The show never chooses not to, and it's nice to see them make that choice.
At every turn, they always choose to, no matter what it is.
Yeah, so that was great. Faith, do you want to transition us?
Okay, well, yeah, so just to summarize what I said about mine, the singing isn't explained. It's not as extravagant as it should be to make up for that. If you're gonna not make sense, go all the way with it. Have bigger moments and catchier songs and actually connect the music with the plot. I wish they'd stuck to maybe one plot point. Either do just a variety show, just the VHS tapes, just the honey stuff, and that also, like you said, might connect with them having to combine maybe some episodes and shorten the season. And it just feels like a normal episode with music stuck in it.
Alright, so I am covering Grey's Anatomy Season 7, Episode 18, The Song Beneath the Song. And so, in my opinion, like, this is a good episode of Grey's Anatomy and, like, a great example of how to do a musical episode. That's a controversial opinion in the fandom.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I loved it.
Some people hate this episode and think it's just like the worst.
Interesting.
And then other people are like, this episode is great. It's one of my favorites.
It's one of I am on that boat.
Yeah, I think we all agree that we like this.
I'm honestly not that big of a fan. Like,
oh wow,
okay.
Nice.
Well, it's good to have some differing opinions then, so we're not all just like gushing over how good this is.
It's gonna be really interesting because she hasn't seen the Once Upon a Time episode, and if she doesn't like super love this episode, I'm not sure what's gonna be her number one.
I've only seen 4 of them. Of the 6
am I still the only person who's seen all 6 of these episodes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, the premise for the musical portions of this episode are that Callie Torres, who is a orthopedic surgeon at Seattle Grace Mercy West, or as Alex famously calls it in this episode, Seattle Grace Mercy Death. That is the premiere of Seattle Grace Mercy Death. So Callie is in a car accident with her girlfriend, Arizona Robbins. Callie's not wearing her seatbelt, so her entire body just goes through the windshield, which is some pretty severe injuries.
Yes.
Turns out going head first through a windshield is really bad for your body.
Yeah, super bad.
Really bad for your brain.
Oh my god.
1 out of 10 would not recommend.
Yeah, and then to top all of that off, Callie's pregnant with her ex-boyfriend / best friend's baby. So her health situation is even more complicated because she's pregnant.
Yeah, it's very Grey's Anatomy. Don't worry about what she just said if you haven't watched.
So, in case you don't know, like, a brain injury is really bad for you, and we don't really know how the brain works.
Mm-hmm.
And so Callie has this brain injury, and it's making her have this hallucination / dream where she's seeing herself outside of her body, and she's singing, and her coworkers are singing while trying to save her life. And that's really the deal with the singing. Like, it's because of this brain injury thing that's happening. So the plot of this episode is essentially, how do we save Callie's life, and can we save her life without delivering the baby? And then everybody's really upset because everybody loves Callie, and she's not in great shape.
Yeah, it's very emotional.
So the first instance of singing happens when Callie's still on the hood of the car. She looks up and she sees herself outside of her own body, and then her other self sings one of the lines from the theme song, which is a throwback because they cut the theme song after a couple of seasons so they could have 2 extra minutes of plot per episode.
Yes.
And I think the Callie's version of this sounds like hella creepy. Every time I hear it, the hair on my arm stands up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to take a minute to do a round table. So lots of shows have cut the theme songs, and the ones that haven't, you can skip through them on pretty much every streaming service. So do you think theme songs should just hit the road? We just should only have title cards like Riverdale has, or should we be pushing for a comeback of the theme song? What's your opinion here?
I think that. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Moira.
No. There's some theme songs that I've fallen in love with, though, that I'm I want to listen to it whenever I hear it. But, also I didn't even notice when Grey's Anatomy cut theirs, because I just never listened to it.
I think Grey's Anatomy does such a good job with their title cards, and, so does Once Upon a Time. Once Upon a Time, the title card changes every episode, and then Grey's Anatomy, it's usually white with black print, but then anytime it's different, that's when you know it's going to be a really iconic episode.
Yeah, it's about to be really bad.
Yeah.
I think either one works well.
But, I can't imagine, for example, Pretty Little Liars without the theme song.
Mm-hmm. Oh, true.
The theme song is just such a big part of the show. So, I think we agree. It depends on the show.
For sure.
Very few shows, I feel like new shows have theme songs, and I kind of do miss them. I'd say a recent song that has a recent show that has a good theme song would be the Netflix's A Series of Unfortunate Events.
Yeah, and Money Heist also has a good kind of opening sequence and opening theme song too. It's kind of a tense show, so something tense happens, someone gets shot, and then it's this really slow and elegant theme song, and you're oh my god, just send me back to where I was. But I think that for me, probably title cards are a better way to go, unless you can have a really iconic
I think
open card.
I just was curious because they this was a throwback to the theme song that we hadn't heard in a while, and I was do we miss this? Do we not miss this? I think I would miss this if the whole time it had been this version, I would have missed it more. So this isn't musical related, but they send Meredith to tell Sloane about Callie's accident, and like Meredith is a person who deals with traumatic events well, but she's not the person I'd have picked for that.
No.
Yeah,
And they
maybe
get
not.
outside before the ambulance arrives anyway, so like there's no reason like Richard or Derek couldn't have gone down to tell Sloane.
Yeah, true.
Like there's no reason that it had to be Meredith. Like they got there before the ambulance got to the ER, so like it's not like it's not like Derek had to be like right there, or like Richard had to be like right there the second like he was busy at that moment, like trying to save her life. Like she wasn't there yet.
Yeah, true.
And it's just not who I would have picked. So anyways, the singing kind of picks up again, like once Callie arrives in the ambulance. So like herself that she's seeing is singing, and then Bailey and Owen start singing. And it's really interesting because I feel like this was hard. So like they recorded all the singing for this episode in the studio. And then they have like an earpiece and they're like kind of lip syncing, but then they also have to do a lot of like acting and like
at the same
and
time.
the singing and the stuff at the same time, and all of the acting is like medical jargon, and all the acting is also medical jargon, like all the actual lines that they're saying that aren't song is all medical stuff, and all like the physical movements that they're doing are all medical things. Like that's a lot to do at one time, especially if you're not used to doing the singing.
Yeah,
and
true,
then, like,
true.
I guess some of this is helped by the fact that like when they're in the OR, the singing that happens in the OR, everybody's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Also, wear a mask, people.
Yes. Wear a mask. Just do it.
All the time.
So one thing that I think this show did that is exactly the opposite of the Riverdale episode that I covered is they picked good songs.
Yes.
So Grey's and like a lot of other shows play a lot of like indie or like lesser known songs, and then like a lot of them have become famous because of this show. And then so like this whole show, like this whole episode, they picked songs that they'd already used previously for like important moments in the earlier seasons.
Yeah.
And I think that was
so
a really
cool.
smart move.
Yeah, I think with everything else, as far as Grey's Anatomy goes, it was really well thought out, for sure.
They,
It was
like,
purposeful.
Shonda Rhimes knew she wanted to do this, like, as basically, like, at the conception of Grey's Anatomy. She knew she wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And she just didn't know when or where, and then she was like, okay, I finally have an opportunity to do it, and, like, she got everybody that wasn't on board, and...
That's super cool.
I believe it was, like, Sarah Ramirez who plays Callie, and Kevin McKidd that plays Owen, and then Chandra Wilson that plays Bailey. I believe she got the three of them together, and, like, they did some, like, demos, probably chasing cars.
Probably.
And, like, that's what they used to get people on board. So, like, I think the songs are really well chosen, and then there's, like, dialogue happening over/under the singing, as needed. So, like, in some places the singing is louder than the dialogue, and some places the dialogue is louder than the singing, and I think that's, like, important. And, like, a lot of it is just, like, medical stuff. So, like, we don't really need to know it, so it's not important.
Right, yeah.
It can go underneath the singing. And then, like, several of the actors do have musical theater experience, and I'd say, like, the three I just mentioned would be, like, the three main ones.
Right.
That do. And, like, they take the lead on, like, the majority of the singing, and I think that's fine. Like, they're not
totally.
all, like, the most... They're all main characters, but they're not, like... They're not Meredith Grey.
Exactly.
And I think that is fine. I think we can put Meredith Grey on the back burner for an episode or two.
Absolutely.
To do, like,
Especially-
a specialized episode.
Exactly, especially because it's around the Callie storyline, and that's the reason everyone's singing. I think it's okay that it's not all about Meredith, and she doesn't have to sing as much as the ones
Yeah,
that
she doesn't
have...
sing a ton in this episode, because she just doesn't have it. And then also, anytime, like, I think with the auto-tune, like, maybe shows can get away with putting, like, underqualified singers in the spotlight, or, like, give them the wrong vocal parts, but, like, you really can't, actually. I think shows think that they can, like Riverdale. Like, we'll just give you a vocal part that doesn't suit you, and, like, you can make it work. And, like, no,
and it
you
just
actually
doesn't.
can't.
Yeah,
Like,
it
play to your
affects the
strengths.
quality of the whole
It's not
thing.
a bad thing to put some characters that would normally be, like, the main characters on the back burner for, like, a really specific concept episode like this. And I think, there's some other highlights that happen in this episode that aren't specifically musical related, but, Addison is back in this episode, and that's exciting.
I love Addison.
For people that don't love Grey's Anatomy, Addison used to be married to Derek, who is Meredith Grey's main love interest, and then she had her own spin-off show, Private Practice, and she just, like, popped in for the episode, and it was great. We missed her.
And it makes a lot of sense because Callie and her are such great friends, and they have such a great friendship.
And they need a doctor who's gonna be able to save this baby.
Yes, and they need her expertise because there's a baby involved.
Yeah. And so there's also an important plot thing happening where Arizona and Callie are, like, almost but not quite engaged. Like, Arizona proposed, like, while they were having this accident and didn't get an answer before they were put into this life-threatening situation. And then, like, Mark is the baby's father, but he's not related to Callie. Then there's, like, this whole thing where, like, they might have to decide to get rid of the baby to save her life. And nobody knows who's supposed to be making the decisions. And I think that's a continuing theme for Arizona and Callie in the rest of the show. It takes years for them to figure this out.
Yeah, it's all very complicated.
Like, they keep saying that they're gonna, they keep saying, like, oh, like, we're gonna do official papers, and, like, they never seem to do the official papers, and I'm like, something's gonna happen to Sophia one day, and it's gonna be bad, and who's gonna make that decision, because, well, I mean, it'll be Callie, because you never did the official papers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I guess I always want to take a minute to, like, do a PSA, to, like, talk to your friends, family, maybe, like, a lawyer, about who's going to be making decisions for you. Like, we're all very early in our legal adulthood, so it doesn't necessarily need to be our parents anymore. And, like, if you don't want it to be your parents anymore, like, make sure everybody knows that.
Yeah, totally.
And then also, like, if you get pregnant and you plan on, like, keeping the baby, like, talk with everybody who's involved about what you'd want in case something bad ever happens to you and you can't make decisions like this.
Yeah,
like,
make it official.
Obviously, you don't ever, it's really emotional, and, like, people get emotional. And, like, I think this episode, we see people, like, projecting their own fears and feelings into this situation, and, like, it makes the decision a lot more complicated.
For sure.
Yeah, try not to worry about other people's feelings. Just make the decision you think is best and make it. Don't put it off.
Yeah, make the decision and, like, talk about it with everybody before anything bad happens. It's awful to even think about anything bad happening to you, but, like, communicate with your friends and your family and your, like, loved ones about what it is that you want going forward. Somewhat back to the singing, but not really. There's a great scene where Callie is crashing and they're, like, running her back to the OR. And hallucination Callie is, like, sitting in the middle of the gurney singing, and then everyone else is, like, sound off, like, they're totally muted and in slow motion, and they're running. And I love slow motion running.
Yes, especially in Grey's. Grey's does it so well.
It really heightens the urgency for me, and Grey's Anatomy does this a lot. But, like, and then, like, once the gurney reaches the OR, it's, like, just, like, the hallucination of Callie that's on the gurney, and then they lift her up and they transfer her to the OR table, and then, like, when they set her down on the OR table, it's, like, real life Callie who's, like, injured.
Right.
Just really well done. It looks really good.
That is so great. I love it.
So musically, I think that Chasing Cars, with Owen and Callie and Bailey is, like, one of the better songs, and then I'd say Owen's, like, How We Operate, when they're arguing about what treatment plan to take, are, like, the two best, like, musical moments for me.
Yeah.
But they have this big scene in the OR where they sing How to Save a Life, and everybody sings. Ellen Pompeo sings, like, the most she sings in the whole episode.
Yeah.
Teddy sings. It's impressive. Everybody pretty much everyone in the main cast pretty much sings, and they all sound pretty great considering.
Yeah, such a great moment. Honestly, every time that I hear that song and Chasing Cars, I think of Grey's now, which says a lot.
So basically, like, this episode kind of ends with, like, the baby being born in, like, critical condition, but, like, alive, and Callie has does this violent rendition of the story, and stops hallucinating, or, like, as she's, like, waking up, and then she accepts Arizona's proposal, which means that she can still speak, which is good news for the brain injury. That means she's not, like, totally brain dead, so yay, happy endings. And then, Sophia turns out super cute in later episodes, and Mark and Arizona make up, and they acknowledge that they're both parents, and they're co-parents, and that's important.
Yes, and that... Yeah, because there's Callie the mom. I don't know if this was kind of... Did we officially say that Callie is the mother, and this Mark Sloan is the father, who is also Callie's best friend, and then Arizona is the girlfriend. Yeah. So there's, like, 3 parents.
Yeah, there's 3 parents involved in this scenario. So for me, the major breakout star in this episode is Kyler Lee, who plays Lexi Gray. And I don't think that they knew that she could sing at this level before this. And then also, I'd say, like, less featured but surprisingly good would be Justin Chambers as Alex Karev. His part in Running on Sunshine he just belts that out, and like it's a moment, and he nails it. Like he does really good. He just has like that basically that one line in the whole episode.
Yeah, yeah,
he
does a
nails
really good
it.
job.
I mean, he just needed that one line. That's all he needed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Something tells me your name is Lucy. 'Cause everything keeps shaking around.
Nobody in this episode has like a keep your day job like kind of moment. I think part of that is like at any point where there was like a weaker or like less experienced singer, they gave them like a smaller part or like a part well suited to their voice or harmonized them with a stronger singer. Like there's a part where April and Bailey and Lexi are all singing over each other, and like I don't think April was probably that great, but like Bailey and Lexi are pretty great, and so like it doesn't matter so much. Like you can't. It's not such a big deal because she's not like, doing a solo.
Yeah, exactly. They played to everybody's strengths.
So I think overall they were just really smart about all the musical components of this episode. So like for me, it's one of my my standout favorite episodes of Grey's Anatomy as a whole, and then like it's very high on my list for overall musical episodes.
Ooh.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
There we go.
Anything else to add about the Grey's musical episode?
No, I feel like I covered a lot.
You went real specific on that, and it was great because it's such a great episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I could have talked more. I just like realized while I was talking that I like skipped over all of Lexi's singing bits, except for
I was ready to jump in and be like, "What did Lexi? She did such a good job."
Yeah, she did great. She did great. I just didn't have much to say about her specific songs.
So to round out our main meat and potatoes of this episode, we're going to take these 6 musical episodes that we covered and rank them as far as what we think are the best and what's the worst. Who wants to start us off?
I will. I'll go first.
Sure.
I'm really nervous to go first. So
Okay.
Kind of somewhat. I think I was tied between Once Upon a Time and Grey's Anatomy. I think it's still Grey's Anatomy on top for me.
Okay.
Then Once Upon a Time. Then Heather's. Then Hedwig. Then The Flash. Then Carrie. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody.
Yeah. No, I don't.
I think
I'm not
The Flash would have possibly come up 1 or even 2 spots, except for that there just wasn't enough music tonight.
Yeah. Fair.
Like, I was just expecting more music. I mean, they had all of the musical talent they could have ever wanted, and I feel like they just kind of, like,
all
didn't.
of it. So much potential, not enough follow through.
Yeah.
Mine is super, super similar. I didn't put The Flash in mine because I didn't see it and I don't watch the show.
Fair.
So I can't judge.
Yeah, you just removed it.
Yeah.
It's not in the running.
Yes, I just removed it.
It's not there.
So for me, number 1 is Grey's. I remember crying the whole episode. I was so because Callie's one of my favorites, and then the music just makes it that much more emotional. I think it's so great. And then Once Upon a Time, and then Riverdale, Heather's, Hedwig, and then Carrie. So exactly the same as yours, minus The Flash.
I'm very curious what Moira's is going to be. I have no idea.
So that's why I wanted to get mine out of the way. I want to know what Moira thinks.
Okay, so I have not seen the Once Upon a Time episode.
Okay, fair.
Or the third Riverdale one, The Wicked Little Town. So I've just left them out.
Fair.
I have no opinions. So my first one is the Flash episode.
Okay, of course.
I love it too much. And then it's Big Fun from Riverdale.
Okay.
And then it's the Grey's Anatomy version, and then the second Riverdale one, A Night to Remember the Carrie.
Okay.
And
Carrie last.
Carrie's last.
That's
we know why
Carrie's
last. But I'll let you guys, I don't like the Grey's Anatomy one, basically just because when I think of a musical episode, I'm looking for choreography and looking for, a show-stopping number.
See, and this choreography is, medical stuff happening. That happens every episode.
So, yeah,
exactly.
It's a different kind of choreography. And, so it's different for me. And, KJ was explaining it to me beforehand because I'm just still watching Grey's Anatomy. I'm not caught up. So, when she was telling me about it, I pictured something different. And so
that's fair.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
But, yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, so let's get into our segments for this episode. It's probably been a long one, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
We had a lot of things to say. So we'll start off with Love It or Lose It. This is going to be one thing that each of us loved and one thing we'd rather have changed about these musicals. I can start us if we want.
Yeah, you start.
I absolutely loved Juana Parilla as the evil queen, and the drama that she brings to the episode and the performances and all the dances and the flair is just so incredibly entertaining, and I loved it even more the second time that I watched this episode. And I would get rid of the whole Wicked Little Town episode. The episode as a whole was a big flop. I mean, yeah, as between the two that I did anyways, I think it was just unnecessary. They could have did just a normal episode. It was just kind of a waste of calling it a musical episode.
I didn't get it here. I just wanted to step in and defend the Wicked Little Town episode of Riverdale where they did Hedwig. I have had to rewatch it for a couple of other things that I've been doing since we recorded this episode, and I just wanted to step in and defend some of the stuff here. I think since we recorded, I figured out that Hedwig actually is much more mainstream than I thought it was. And anyways, I also liked it more on rewatching. It was much better on rewatching, and I am typically in favor of Bughead, but it had some really good Bargy moments. The moment where Betty and Archie are kissing, the first time I watched this episode really put me off, but the subsequent 2 or 3 times I've had to watch this episode since then have really warmed my heart to it, and I liked it, and I just wanted to throw that in here.
I'll go next. Love it, basically everything in the Grey's Anatomy one, and then lose it, basically everything in Carrie.
Yeah, makes sense.
There was nothing good to start with. I don't know why they thought they'd have a good outcome. It was a whole combination of bad elements, and they got a bad outcome. And then Grey's Anatomy was like, oh, here's some people who are musically talented and some good music. Let's
and
make
a great show,
episode. Yeah, and a good plot to put it in.
Yeah.
And they got a good episode, so...
And Moira?
Love it. The Running Home to You song from the Flash episode, I love it. It's a song that the two characters, someone proposed to the person during the song, and it just gives me all the feels.
It's beautiful. I didn't really know the characters that was being proposed to, but it was beautiful.
Yeah. It's perfect. Yeah, and for me, the lose it part would be the Carrie episode. Just get rid of it entirely.
Yep.
Why did we do this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because we did the other two and we had to ignore this one.
Yeah, it's best and worst musical episodes. If we cut out the worst one, we wouldn't have anything to compare the good ones to.
Exactly.
True.
But if we could just erase it from existence, we would.
Yeah, just don't let it
If I had to pick something really specific to lose it, I would pick Cheryl in soloing in either Carrie or Heather's. Just Cheryl should not be allowed to solo and be. It wouldn't be so bad if she solo. It's just that everyone treats her solos like she did really good, and she didn't.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Her solo and Carrie, the whole purpose of it is to prove that she deserves the role of Carrie without an audition.
Yeah, and she just doesn't.
And she does not. And then everyone is everyone backs down right away. Oh yeah, of course you deserve this. And they're like, no, you don't. You sound terrible. I love Madeline Patch. I'd just like to say, usually she does. Yes. Usually she sounds fine. Just she did not in that particular scene, and the fact that the particular scene was the purpose of it was to prove that she was good wasn't good.
Yeah, it flopped for sure.
Yeah, we need to move on.
So next up, we have randomized rankings where we choose 5 characters. In this scenario, we're choosing 5 mainish characters randomly and ranking them. So I can start with my ranking, and then our viewers will know who the characters are. Yep. So at number 1, my ranking is Regina Mills from Once Upon a Time. One of my favorite characters of all time. I think that her character growth is one of the best out of any show ever. And then we have
Love It. So
yes,
for the whole
so big surprise. Yeah, super surprising for sure. And then Callie Torres, another of my all-time favorite characters out of anything. And then Mark Sloan, who I used to hate when he first came in the show, but you grow to just love him. And then Veronica Lodge, I like what she brings to Riverdale, and of course she's like a classic character from the comic, as they all are, obviously, but I think she's like kind of spoiled sometimes, and entitled. That's the word I'm looking for. Entitled. And then last I have Barry Allen, because I do not watch The Flash at all, so I could not
no opinion.
Exactly. I could not put him against all these other characters that I love.
Moira, would you like to go next?
Okay. So, at number 1, I have Callie Torres.
Love.
Yeah, we know why we love her. She's just perfect in every way, and I love that character so much. At number 2 is Mark Sloan, because as Faith said, you grow to love him. It's just, he's great.
You guys didn't respond at me, but continue.
Number 3 is Veronica Lodge.
Okay.
I like her character a lot, but she's all right. Yeah, she has some character
Middle
flaws.
of the road. Yeah.
Yeah, she just. Number 3 is number 4. Number 4 is Regina Mills.
Okay.
I've only watched half of Once Upon a Time, so like I do love her, and I think she has some great plot points. And I was just getting to the point where she's actually a redeeming character and
You're gonna have
has
to
some of the
finish
greater
Once Upon a Time
plot
so we
points.
can do this.
Yeah,
I need to finish this.
I'll forgive you. Yeah, you'll revise that statement when you finish Once Upon a
Like, once
Time.
I finished it,
Yeah.
I definitely have a different opinion. And number 5, my final one, is Barry Allen.
Oh, wow.
Because he is a disaster.
Oh.
I love him to pieces, but he's a disaster. He needs to figure out his life.
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
those are great. I'm okay. Just let me get through this, and then I'm gonna defend some of my choices.
Okay, go ahead.
I think you guys are really mad
I'm
about
so
like
excited.
half of my list. So,
Okay.
number 1 is Regina. I feel like that's pretty non-controversial.
Of course.
We love
sure.
Regina. Number 2 is Callie. I feel like that's also pretty up there.
Pretty
You guys
acceptable.
yeah.
Yeah.
They were both great in these musical episodes specifically and overall. So I have Veronica Lodge at number 3, mostly because of her specific performance in the Heathers episode. She sings Lifeboat. And,
Oh, I love Lifeboat. That's a good
it's
one
really
to
good.
mention.
It's one of my favorite songs from the
Mhm.
episode, and we didn't really talk about it when we talked about the episode. But also because Kevin's like goes to give her the directions for like how to feel, and then he's like, "Oh, it seems like you're already in a bad place," and then like makes her sing, and like never asks her what's wrong. She's going through
Yeah.
a huge crisis at home. Her home life is imploding, and Kevin never even asks her what's wrong. He's just like, "Oh, like it seems like you're already pretty sad and upset and lost. So like, yeah, just use that." Never
for
even
it.
checks up on her, but then she performs really beautifully. But like, also like somebody
Yeah.
should really have checked and made sure she was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in
And
that
then
town,
good.
for sure.
For number 4, I have Barry Allen. Again, judged pretty specifically on the episode. And like specifically for 2 things. One is the song that I've forgotten the name of. That he sings with Supergirl.
Super friend.
Superfriend, yes. Superfriend. I loved Superfriend. And also he
so true.
makes that comment about how she's like better than her cousin, who is Superman. And she
Yes.
was very appreciative of that, and I loved that.
That was such a cute moment.
So if you've done the math, you know that my number 5 is Mark Sloan.
Fair.
And I understand that this is controversial, but I am going to say, like, I wanted to be fair to their overall, like, what I knew of the characters as a whole, but also, like, what they did in the episode. And Mark Sloan was really shitty in this episode of Grey's Anatomy. Like, I get that he was really scared that
True.
Callie was going to die, but he was really shitty to Arizona in this episode.
True.
Yeah.
He was
Like,
not
saying that
great in
Arizona
that
wasn't a
episode.
mom and that they could just, like, he could make another baby with her girlfriend if the baby died, like... I get he
Yeah,
was coming from a place of fear,
true.
but he was really shitty in this episode.
I did
Yeah.
hate
Not by
Mark
the
in that
end.
episode.
But he did not he was not good in a time of crisis. He was not a good
True.
man in a storm, which we know Arizona mostly
Of
is.
course. It's literally, that's her thing.
Was raised to be.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just couldn't with Mark this week. I'm sure we'll do this. I'm sure he'll come up on another randomized ranking. He'll be like my number 1 sometime in
Yes.
the future. But like in this ranking
Fair.
this week with this episode to reference, like it just wasn't there.
Yeah, just couldn't do it.
Fair.
So finally we have I Would Name My Kid, where we, out of all of these things that we've watched this week, we pick whatever baby names we like for our possible hypothetical kids in the future. KJ, you want to start us on this one?
Yeah, so I tried to keep it just to one because I could honestly pick so many.
Okay.
But I've always liked Tony for like a girl.
Yeah.
Like also I really like the name Antoinette, which is what you would like shorten Tony from.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yes.
I pick Antoinette, of course, named for Tony Topaz.
Yes. That is
our
so
bisexual
cute.
queen.
Yes, I love that.
We love.
For me, I had either Betty. I think that, I mean, I might be also biased because of Folklore by Taylor Swift that just came out, but I think that Betty is really a cute name.
I don't think we're going to go a single episode without mentioning Folklore.
I don't think so. I don't think so. And then, of course, Lana, as in Lana Parrilla, who plays Regina Mills. So, I think that my obsession with this character has become more apparent to me in this episode. I don't know about anybody else, but Moira, you want to go ahead?
Mine is actually a guy's name. It's Cisco. I love the name Cisco, and I never heard it before, like, the show The Flash came out, and I really like it.
I barely learned anyone's names for the Flash episode.
It's way too stressful, and they have different names for half of the episode.
And I knew Kara, and I knew, what's his name? Monel? How is the...
Monel, yeah.
Yeah, those were the only three I knew by the end of the episode. And Ivy. Those were the only 4 names I learned in the whole episode. Is Cisco Kid Flash? Is that...
Cisco is Vibe. He's the one with the floppy hair.
Who's the kid that they always call Kid Flash?
That is Wally West. He's played by Keanan Lonsdale.
Is his name Wallace? Because Wallace is high up on my list of names. Every Wallace in TV is like a good sidekick.
Okay. It's just so great.
Are we ready to close this out here of this long probably episode? Okay, thank you so much for listening. Let us know what you thought of this probably really long episode. Thanks so much for listening if you got this far. We are Series of Opinions on Instagram and Tumblr, and we're changed now to Series of Opinion on Twitter as well. Is that correct, KJ?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Series of Opinion with no S because Twitter has a stupid limit.
You can find us at the following. Moira, where can we find you?
You can find me at Moira_Frisk on everything.
You can find me at Miss Faith Ann across everything, and for all my art things at Faith Ann Art.
Yeah, and you can find me at Life Methods of KJ everywhere.
So yeah, thanks so much for listening.
Yeah, thanks.
Tell us again what you think, what you want us to do in the future, what you want us to talk about, if we missed any great musical episodes. And we'll see you.
If you loved the Carrie episode of Riverdale, please write in.
Oh, please.
We love
to discuss.
about it. If you can come up with like 5 or 6 like really good things about it, we want to know them. We'll read your message on the podcast.
Yes. Oh, totally. Yes. We would love to know. So we'll see you in the next one.
Editing of this episode was done by KJ. Our logo is by Faith Bieber at Faith Ann Art. This episode was written and produced and recorded by us.
Bye.
Bye.